Hi ladies and gentlemen, we are delighted to have you today with us. Today we have interesting topic to share with you. What is it? Well, it is pertaining Cold War.
Assalamualaikum and greetings. My name is Fatini Amira, matrix number 056376, and today my friends and I will be presenting our poster on the impacts of the Cold War and conflict resolution. The major practices of international conflict management during the Cold War period reflected the state system dominance in world politics for centuries. It made sense to treat international conflict as occurring between nation-states that acted in a unitary fashion on the basis of stable and discrete national interests rooted in geopolitics, natural resources, and other enduring features of countries. If the behavior of states was dictated by such interests, it followed that conflict between states reflected conflicting interests. Such conflicts were often perceived as zero-sums, meaning the more one state gained, the more its adversary lost. Thus, conflict resolution during the Cold War period was heavily centered around the state's national interest. In the world of national interest, the chief methods of international conflict management were the traditional diplomatic, military, and economic means of influence, and the threat or use of force. These tools of power politics, which is the same tools that states use to engage in international conflict, were the main ones employed in efforts to address conflict. However, that was before the Cold War period. The world has transformed rapidly in the decades since the end of the Cold War. The old conflict resolution system is long gone, and thus, in this video, we will further discuss on the impacts of the Cold War on conflict resolution. For the purpose of this poster, the data and information are collected through qualitative methods via secondary sources. Journal articles, and e-books are mainly used to gain information on this topic.
The result from the impact of the Cold War on conflict resolution can be seen in three different ways. Firstly, from Cold War to peace building, in which an expansion from a focus on superpower negotiating strategies to a wider peace building agenda. During the Cold War, the superpowers vied for control of weak states, thereby propping them up even at the expense of installing authoritarian rulers. After the Cold War, such states were left to fend for themselves, often with disastrous consequences. Now, with the call to prevent violence from occurring or recurring, the United Nations was saying that the international community had a responsibility to do something in these vulnerable environments because of the possible ramifications on both regionally and globally. Second, from governments to non-governmental actors, in which the impact of the Cold War on conflict resolution can be seen as an increase in the role of non-governmental actors as both disputants and third parties in international conflicts. States are the most significant actors in international politics, so it is no surprise that they are also the most significant actors in international conflict resolutions. But since 1989, the non-governmental organizations have taken on a larger role in mediating both interstate and intrastate disputes. The NGO's role was labelled as a multi-track approach to conflict resolution. Lastly, from state security to human security. In this sense, it shows a growing concern about human security in addition to state security, which created both tensions and opportunities for collaboration between governmental and non-governmental bodies. During the Cold War, both the United States and the Soviet Union sought to preserve and expand their spheres of influence. They often did this by finding or creating government leaders as allies, often propping up dictators and tyrants who abuse their own people. Since the end of the Cold War, however, that calculus has changed. The violence often stemming from states unable or unwilling to constructively manage the diversity and discontent within their borders. Security now requires looking at the relationship between leaders and the societies.
Hi, My name is Farhana and my student ID is 056358. Firstly is indoctrination of literature. Various forms of intervention emerged during this period. For example, in the anti-war reform agenda of peace civilization in North America, Britain, and also Europe. Many pieces of literature focus recognizing violent disputes, including research on global war frequency, revolution, also peacemaking, which can be shown by scholars such as Quincy Wright in 1942 and Peter Sorokin in 1925. So, on other research and theories also look at the causes of conflict in broad sense, such as John Dollard and others' interaction on psychological and social theory. So, the result from literature during the post-Cold War is developing new fundamental ideas. During this period, numerous scholarly and pursuits in contributing to the evolution of modern conflict resolution and the renewal of anti-colonial. During the 1950s and 1960s, research and theorizing were aimed at prohibiting a brutal war, which mostly focusing on nuclear war. So many academics deliberately attempt to establish broad, aggressive, collaborative efforts to implement their theory and practice to resolve that dilemma. So several groups of scholars work on plans with perspectives that diverge from the dominant realist method of international relations. Next, second result is the institutional and scholar expansion. So some scholars begin to relate their conflict resolution theories, especially in Cold War, to current disputes. For instance, they held problem-solving workshops with official or non-official from conflicting nations. The persuasive research and theorizing look at the causes of conflict, in particular chess projects on psychological methods by Lewin in 1948 and the roles of social conflict by Foster in 1956. Scholars at the Institute and other organizations have published a wide range of endeavor that may help to establish a broad disciplinary theoretical analysis of conflict resolution. Boulding in 1962, Hauser 1956, and Schelling in 1956 also are known as the scholars that wrote such masterpieces. Some creations, such as those written by Carr and Associates in 1957, targeted specific stages of the conflict, such as the emergence of security communities between nations, and also the Center for Advanced Study in the Behavior Sciences. Stanford University is a catalyst in the upsurge of what can be done to the modern conflict resolution area. So in 1959, and the others founded the University of Michigan Center for Research on the Conflict Resolution.
Assalamualaikum and hi, my name is Nureen Izzaty binti Norhisam and my metric number is 055335, and today I will be continuing discussing on our topic. There was intervention of third parties during the post-Cold War. During the 1980s and early 1990s, the world changed in many ways. When the Soviet bloc and USSR began falling, there was less distrust and hostility between the Cold War superpowers. After that, the United Nations, or known as UN, did more to keep peace and safety around the world. The question is that what did UN do? Each side's right to veto, which was used to stop decision in the past, was taken away. Both the United States and the Russian Federation were able to come to a consensus on the best course of action after engaging in extension negotiations. So from this intervention of United Nations Security Council, or known as UNSC, we can see after the end of the Cold War, there was a new willingness to work together in the UNSC. The article of 24/1 of the UN Charter suggests that the UNSC is the charge in keeping peace and security around the world. The Charter's intended responsibilities have been largely assumed by the Security Council. As a result, discussion about how to improve the UN's ability to preserve global peace and security. For example, the UNSC's size, composition and decision-making processes, especially the authority of veto, were being discussed.
After the end of the Cold War, methods of conflict resolution started to shift as we can see from the explanation of my friends earlier. It can be said that the balance of power between major nations was established to enable cooperation, decision-making to ensure the peace and harmony of the international community. Additionally, we can also see that United Nations was one of the primary actors in keeping peace and resolving conflict in the international political arena. That's all from us. Thank you so much for watching. I hope to see you again in